Well, good afternoon or good morning for whatever part of the world you're in. This is the Art of Fire Glassblowing Studio outside of Damascus, Maryland. I'm Bruce. I'll be doing the camera work and the narration. And here we go with Foster Holcomb, owner, master glass blower. All right. And we expect to see a few of you from the virtual craft festival joining us here in a couple of moments. Got a lot of items on display here with the holiday season coming up. We decided to emphasize some red and green colors here, and also, hey, we got a little Christmas tree there in the background, some ornaments hanging. So here we are, we're ready to go. I see we got a couple of viewers already. Good, and well, hello Steve, good to have you back with us. And we're happy to be back with you all. And yep, it's mid-evening, I guess, in the UK right now. And Claire's Crafty Corner. All right, great. Wonderful to have you with us. And demonstrating for you today will be Josh Reese. Hello, Josh.
Hello, how are you folks doing?
Go. Okay.
It's been a while, right? What?
Yeah.
3 or 4 months?
Been a little while, but we're back.
We're back. That's right. Well, Bruce, why don't you show them around the studio for people that are new? We're a couple minutes early. So maybe show them the furnaces and all that little bit of different equipment. Some
Okay.
people might be new and never seen it
Cool.
before.
Well, this here is the furnace. I'm not pointing at it right now because I'm moving this large door, but that's what we work out of. It's a propane-fired furnace with about 400 pounds of molten glass in it. It stays at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
We tried this once.
Basically all the time.
Did we ever try this before?
Let's try that. Let's
Okay,
see if
so
putting a pair of protective lenses in front of the camera over here might let you see. Nah, it's still pretty bright.
Still
We're
pretty
gonna, hey, Tommy's Workshop, glad to have you with
Hey,
us.
Tom.
Tell you what, if we do this again sometime soon, we'll get some regular welder's shields and show you what the inside of the furnace looks like. But that's the Intimidator. That's what we deal with every day, getting in there to grab the glass. We have reheating chambers. They're called glory holes.
I'll open them up
this
really-
is what
really
it
fireproof.
looks like inside. That's also pretty brilliant, and it's very, very hot. That runs at about 2,300 Fahrenheit. And just to show you what a one that's not lit looks like inside, you can see our burner tip in there. That's where the flame comes out. It's basically a ceramic tube. And you can see from the detritus on the bottom that people have left a little glass in there. Maybe had one crack or a little bit fall off there. So all glass blowers work from a bench to a reheating chamber, the glory hole. Josh will be over here working at this bench and moving inside. And it's basically a box of bricks. And it's held at around 900 degrees. It's just a box of bricks.
No jokes?
Yeah, and it's got a propane burner on it. Okay, Jennifer's Craft and Creations from Doncaster. Welcome aboard. Anyway, with the glass, we have to put the finished pieces in here to go through a process called annealing. Now here's another one we have. This one has metal electric elements in it in addition to the gas source of heat. So we can use this for some of the larger pieces we do. So that's the annealers, and all the glass goes through an annealing process. If we take our finished product and put it out on the floor, it's likely to crack. In fact, it will crack. In fact, I'll show you a crack. Why don't you come grab...
Oh, no, don't show them the crack. Not that crack.
Not that crack.
Not that crack. We made this pumpkin yesterday, and it had a little crack in it at the bottom, and you can see a line, and so that sometimes happens with the glass, but we'll make another one. No, we're not going to throw it down like that. I'm going to take it home for my wife to see it before I do that.
Let her do it.
All righty, so that's the equipment. Like I said, we'll see Josh moving back between the glory hole over there and his bench with the tools. He's preheated the blowing iron. You can see the end of it glowing orange. Lots of times folks ask us, do we get burned? We don't get burned on glass. We're smart enough not to grab that. But in a glass studio, you can sometimes get burned on a piece of metal. Now that pipe right there is over 1,000 degrees, the metal's starting to glow. But even if it gets up to a toasty 850 Fahrenheit, it probably doesn't glow, but it would burn if you touch it. And that's most common for a glass blower's burn. Josh is going to stop turning for just a moment, and you can see how the glass droops towards the floor. And that's probably one of the more difficult skills for a glass blower to learn and control, is maintaining the symmetry of the glass.
So right about here, if I went any further on the pipe than here, I would probably get a pretty good burn.
Yeah. The actual blowing of the glass does not take a great deal of effort. While the glass is hot, it's easy for the air to get forced out into the molten glass. So when the glass cools off, it becomes difficult. So Josh is using a cherry wood block. It's a cup on a handle, and we use that to cool the glass and shape it a little bit. The shaping of the glass is very important to the process. Now in a moment, he's going to blow into it and trap air.
Now, is that cool enough that they can actually see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can actually see that it's cooling. So he's trapped some air in the blowpipe, and now we'll watch the bubble expand into the glass. And there it comes. You can see it right in the center there. That pressurized air has nowhere to go but out into the hot glass. It certainly isn't going to break through that stainless steel, and it's not going to blow his bony finger off the end of the pipe. So now that he's got a bubble established in there, he needs to let that cool just a little bit, some very little bit, and he'll gather over that. By putting the iron into the furnace, down into the glass, and turning the pipe. Now he's going to strip some off, and you can see that's the fluid nature of what we're dealing with at these temperatures. The glass just drizzled right off of the pipe. Now Josh is going to be making a snowman first of all. So, and sticking with our winter theme, here in the northern hemisphere, don't know if any of you are in the southern hemisphere watching us, you know, we're really impressed with the fact that there's like a worldwide participation in this. So welcome aboard, everybody. Anyway, it's approaching winter time here and holiday season. And is there danger of inhaling by mistake? Actually, we intentionally inhale sometimes. And I am talking about glass blowing. This is not a Bill Clinton analogy. So, at any rate, I'll explain that in a minute. But we're making a snowman. Josh has a bowl over here with granular glass in it. That's frit, and that frit sticks to the pipe, or sticks to the glass when Josh brings it over and it's hot and dips the glass in it. Once he gets the coating he needs, he'll go ahead and shape it again with the block. No, Stuart, there's not a one-way valve in the pipe. Now, if we were to take that pipe and put it into the reheating chamber or the furnace and not have any glass on the end of it and inhaled, we could draw in hot air, but we don't do that. So he's blown that out a little more.
I'll actually overblow it.
He's going to overblow it and then suck in on it to decrease the diameter. And he's drawing in on it, and you can see there it blows out, and he can bring it back in. There we go.
Still alive, no problem.
So we do have one process we'll tell you about real quick while he's cooling this glass off, and that's called snorkeling. And we take a blowpipe like Josh has right there, and instead of having a closed drop on the end, we open it up so it's an open cylinder. And then we turn it, bend it over a little bit at about a 45-degree angle so it points down toward the floor. And then we stick that in the furnace, make sure that it's gets into the glass, and we suck in on the blowpipe and fill it up with glass. It's a really neat process called snorkeling. All right, so he's put a little bit of wax onto his jacks. That's about the only time we use any lubricant on these tools. Is the wax on the jacks helps it move across the glass a lot easier. On other tools that pinch or cut, we don't want any wax involved because we don't want it to slide off of the glass. You notice that Josh raised and lowered the pipe a little bit, and here he goes with another stripping of the glass just a little bit off to keep the volume he wants. All right, now it's back to the bench again, and with a slightly larger cherry wood block or with the newspaper. In a moment he'll shape it. See how he's peeling the glass off there? The glass blower knows how much he needs to make the piece. So the folded newspaper that's been soaked in water is a perfect insulator and allows him to shape the glass by hand. So he can get a lot more control of what's happening there. You can see the steam coming off the paper, and periodically he'll wet the paper just to keep it from burning. So you don't really feel any heat unless there's a split in the paper or it's dried out, and then it's pretty nasty. But we're pretty consistent about keeping those folded and wet. It makes a great insulator. He's heating that glass up, and you'll notice he gets up and does this quite often, moving back and forth from the bench to the reheating. Why a newspaper and not a cloth? Well, actually, cloth could probably heat and burn, but if you use a, what's the got pad made of? What's that material?
Like a graphite.
Graphite. A graphite cloth is really good and will move on it, but we probably wouldn't use one of our t-shirts.
Somebody thinks he sounds like Dr. Phil.
I like that. That's a new one.
Okay. A little bit of shaping there.
So that's about as much as I'll blow it out. Now it's more about just changing the shape of the volume I already have. So.
Okay. So what it'll use is a combination of heat, gravity, and centrifugal force. Notice that at first he just pointed the piece toward the floor, it elongated a little bit, and now by twirling it around like that, the centrifugal force is going to elongate it. He'll get a little more air in it as he needs to shape the vessel or the snowman. So you can probably figure out already which end is the bottom of the snowman, but in case you haven't, it's the wide end down there. Most glass blowing pieces, we form the lower half to 2/3 first on our blowpipe, then we change to another iron and keep on working from there. So Josh is going to reheat this. He's got the height that he's going to need for the construction. He's got his diameter set. He may change that a little bit as he goes along, but then he's going to use a pair of metal blades that are hinged together. The tool called the jacks, and he'll use that in a few moments, or maybe now, to cut a series of lines into the glass. Actually, though, he's not going to cut through. This is going to be like a series of indentations. So if you've built the snowman before, and you know you've stacked one snowball on top of another, well, here we go. Here's the snowballs being stacked, but in this case, we're creating a line in between each of them. The jacks are probably one of the tools that's used more than any other. He's using the back of the jacks, the hinge or the strap, to flatten the bottom a little bit. And the reason he needs to do this is the snowman doesn't want to roll off the table. Now, there are different blowpipes for different techniques. There's one pipe that does all kinds of things. It's basically one type of pipe, but we do have different sizes. And the sizes are pretty much decided on the diameter of the point where you gather, or the head of the piece. Now what Josh is doing right here now is heating a tungsten rod that's been sharpened. You'll see it start to glow in a moment. And he's going to create a hole in the bottom of the piece. And glass blowers refer to this so that we can make a blow punty. I'll explain that in a minute. But he's going to find the center of that bottom, and he's going to take that hot tungsten right there, He'll probably keep the torch on it for a little bit and poke a hole in the bottom of the snowman. So get that good and hot. Foster's turning the pipe right now to keep it straight and centered, and then Josh will poke a hole in it. There he goes, just getting the very end of it. You can see the glow of the tungsten. And now he's going to start working their way into the glass and round it out. Okay, that is not a normal step in the making of a glass vessel. Normally on the bottom of a glass vessel like that, we would simply attach what we call a punty, or a glue bit or a bridge that allows you to actually attach another pipe to it and break it off of this pipe. And that's what we're in the process of right now. Foster's flattening the bottom a little bit more and giving a little more depth to work with. What Josh has done over there is take glass on another blowing iron. Now he's going to blow through and pop the end of it open. So now there's a hole all the way through. This is not the normal process in the punty. Normally the punty would be solid, and you would take that, place it on the bottom of the vessel, break it away from the original blowing iron. But since he's going to close off the top of this vessel once it's broken off, he needs a place to be able to get air to enter into it. And that's why we call it a blow punty. He centered that up so the opening in his punty, the glass he just worked with, is right over top of the hole. That way he'll be able to blow into this piece and inflate it when he needs to. Now Foster in a moment is going to put a drip of water onto one of those lines. Then the vibration of hitting the pipe breaks it free. So right now there's an opening on the end you can see there. Josh is going to close that up in a few moments. And when he closes that up, that's when he needed the hole at the bottom in order to blow and inflate the upper reaches of the snowman.
Why couldn't I have just not put a hole in it and just closed off the top? What would have happened?
Ah, okay, yeah. So the reason we go through all that nonsense is that if we had a completely closed vessel, when we go into that 2,300 degree glory hole, it would cause an expansion of the air and the glass would inflate and it would get much larger. Interestingly enough, when you bring it out and it starts to cool off, it would actually contract and suck in on itself. So you wouldn't really have any control. Yeah, really, Dutch, that's the name of it. So anyway, that's why we have an opening. So most glass pieces have to have an opening somewhere for the equalization of air pressure. And that's the purpose of this blow putty right now. So when Josh comes back, he'll close off that open end. You can see that that's where he and Foster broke it away from the blowing iron. And what they'll do right now, he's cutting down on that with the jacks, sealing it off, and he'll use his shears to cut it off of there. Now that's a sealed unit at the top, and down at the bottom, he's got the opening in the blow punty. He's attaching a hose right to it now. Real technical name for that tool is a blow hose, believe it or not. Okay, so he's got one end of the blow hose on a mouthpiece, and the other is connected by a coupling to the pipe. And what Josh will be able to do here is blow at the same time he's manipulating or working the glass. So it's a real handy tool, because normally if you just pick up the pipe and blow, the glass is about 4 feet away from you. Now he's using the tool, and we'll be able to see, there you have it, a little bit of increase in the diameter in that top bubble. That's from when he blows. And that is the reason, the whole reason for the blow putty. So he can do that. Now he's going to use the newspaper to chill parts of it.
You do the application and then the hat at the end, or the hat and then
And right now, Foster and Josh are discussing what they're going to do as far as the sequence of the process. Okay, so this little fella's going to have a hat, and we have some black glass over here that's going to serve as the hat. And Foster's going to be gathering that up now, I believe. You all doing the hat now, Josh? Okay. So Foster will take a couple of gathers out of the furnace on a smaller iron. We call it a bit iron. And you just gather a little bit of glass. Josh, in the meantime, is making sure that the body stays straight, that the snowballs that make the snowman are all symmetrical and well defined. Put a little bit of air into it right then, and now he's going to wait on Foster to get the black glass, and once that's done, then they'll put the hat on. Now Josh is going to go over to the glory hole because we have to do what's called a flash heat every once in a while. If we let this glass get down in a range of 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit or below, the glass will crack. So right now Josh is applying a little bit of reheat. You might be able to see a little bit of like a cherry red glow in the iron where the putty is. See how to the left of that rail the iron is dark, almost black, but right there where the putty is, you can see that there's heat in it from the glow of the metal. Foster's heating up the black glass. Foster's going to get that very, very hot, and then what they'll do is drop this onto the top of the snowman, up on his head. This will be the first part of the hat. What Foster will do with it, what Josh will do with this is after they cut it free, he'll make a disc out of it. So here comes the hot glass. Foster raises it. Josh takes it. He places it in the center of that top joint and cuts it free. Once he's cut it free, he'll take a quick reheat, not only for the sake of the snowman, but also to make sure that that black glass that was just put on remains hot, and then he'll come back to the bench and he'll manipulate that. So that is going to be the brim of the snowman's top hat. By using the hinge or the back of the jacks to flatten, he gets that disc form, and then the next piece of the black glass that gets dropped on will form the top of the stovepipe hat. So now he's got the disc, getting that shaped up. In the meantime, Foster's over here getting more glass so he can go into the black again. This portion will be the cylindrical top of the hat. So once again, Foster's going to gather up plenty of glass, and then Josh will cut it free, and it'll take a couple of reheats here to get going on it. So Foster's going to pick up a little more black. You can see a bit of a glow in the part of the hat that Josh attached. And here's how the glass blowers can also judge heat. You can watch that as we're here, and that color will get darker. So whereas it was glowing a lot more when he first came back, it's gotten a good bit darker. He'll come back for another flash heat while Foster picks up more black for the hat. Thank you, Patricia. We think it's kind of awesome too. So everybody's moving around here, sharing the heat of the glory hole. There's that bright glow in the top hat right now, the disc portion that's on the snowman. We'll watch that heat dissipate. Josh right now is using an oxygen propane torch to heat the area around the punty. This focuses a great deal of heat right on that joint and keeps it hot, which is what he wants. When we use the glory hole for reheating, because it's a big chamber, everything will get hot unless we just don't put the glass in there. We only put about half of it in. So to heat a specific area like that, it's really handy to have these torches. Foster's getting this glass extremely hot. It'll be glowing orange when he brings it back. Josh will place it in the center of that disc and cut it free. He'll let it drip just a little bit, get it placed as he wants, and cut it free. In this instance, he's going back for another reheat just to make sure that the body stays hot, and also it will help melt in the area where he cut that black glass free. It'll alleviate some of the shear marks. And he can use a torch to do that too later as he chooses. So he's got the top of the hat on the disc, and now he's going to use the back of the jacks or the hinge as kind of a mini Marver or table to shape that top hat on the snowman. He's getting that characteristic top hat shape. And once he gets it pretty much shaped, he'll go back for a reheat and do the final shaping of the hat or anything else he needs. So now the snowman's coming along pretty well. So get the body hot by heating it in the glory hole. We can come over here and see that he's got the whole pipe stuck in there. That gets all of the glass hot. And since that black glass in the hat was the freshest and hottest, it's glowing quite a bit. It's a lot brighter than the brim, which had been on for a little while. Now he's going to use the blades of the jacks to make a nice straight line on there. And he's going to use the torch again, the oxypropane torch. He's heating that punty joint. He doesn't want that area to get cold and have it crack off, but the only way to heat that into the glory hole would be to put the entire piece in, and we'd be focusing a lot of heat onto that entire body. So now we're going to get ready for the decoration. And Josh is putting on another pair of glasses, titanium glasses that protect you from what's called the sodium flare of using this torch. It's a little hard on the eyes. So he's got a stick or stringer of black glass here, and he's going to preheat that and let it ball up. We'll have a little bit more on the end, and he's going to put some buttons on this and a face. So he's coming up the body now, and with just a little bit of the black glass, he's going to be able to create a line of buttons. A little better look at that. You can see how tiny they are right there, and it burns off. Now he's going with the eyes, and in a moment he'll get the a series of dots which will form the mouth.
See you right there in a second.
He's just cleaning off a little bit of stray glass right there that had burned onto it. And now Foster is flashing, reheating the glass. It is fun, Dutch Trader. Yep, it is. Okay, so now he's heating up a little bit of orange glass. And this would be to represent what would normally have the carrot as a nose for the snowman. So Foster's going to bring the piece back. He's going to keep it turning, and then it will stay centered. And then Foster will flip it over to where the face is upward, and Josh will attack. So now he's letting that sit like that because it might move toward the floor. Now he'll flip it up, and here comes the orange nose, the carrot, if you will. Now it's not going to stay that long. You're just going
No?
to let it
It's not gonna be that long?
Okay, let's do it. A monster carrot. No, see how he's heating upward from the bottom a little bit? About an inch or so up from the body. That heated area right there is where it will thin when he pulls it. And then when he heats the tip of that, it'll just burn right off. And he'll be able to straighten out the nose a little bit. And there's the carrot nose on the end of the snowman. There we go.
Tell you what, he looks a little cold, Bruce.
Yeah?
He looks a little cold. I think you might need a scarf.
A scarf? Okay. All right. So Josh is going to go get some more color. We're going to put a scarf on him. And I'll come on over here and we'll throw up another iron in the pipe warmer. We didn't explain this piece of equipment early on in the process. This is a pipe warmer over here. The glass adheres to the hot metal a lot better. And so Josh is going to gather up the clear glass and then he's going to use some of this red to create a scarf. Now, we showed you the furnace when we first started the broadcast. That is all clear glass in there. And then by using this granular glass or frit, this is one way that we're able to add color to the piece. If we had a 400-pound furnace full of red glass, then we wouldn't be able to make a snowman unless he was a red snowman. So that gives us a little versatility. So he's thinning the glass out, pulling it and cutting the end with his shears. And now he's going to begin to pull the glass a little bit. Foster's flashed the piece. He's going to trade with Josh. Josh now has the iron with the snowman. Foster has the iron with red glass for the scarf. And what Josh will do in a moment here is drape the glass around the snowman's neck and create a scarf. So by bringing it around there, drapes the scarf around and down the other side. And there we go. The snowman's got his scarf, and now it'll be time to heat it up just a little bit and make any finishing touches to the design.
I'm going to do some cutting to it. That should be okay.
No, Dutch Turner, this is not all recycled glass. We do recycle the clear glass that we have that, say, cut off or broken pieces in the shop. But if we were to take any colored glass that we have and recycle it, then that would contaminate our batch. And as far as the colors we use, those come from manufacturers, most of them overseas, who have studios with many, many furnaces and might be cooking up as many as 15 to 20 colors at a time. Most of the colors are created by adding metal oxides to the glass. So now Foster is torching as Josh directs. And Josh is going to use a pair of serrated tweezers to squeeze the glass and give the scarf a little bit of a sharp end. I mean, a pleated end. There he goes. He's going to squeeze that down some. And he's cutting in the tassels for the scarf. Okay. At any rate, I've digressed, but we purchase our color from suppliers. And they manufacture the glass, and we can buy it in granular form, or we can buy it in bar stock or solid pieces. And we'll show you some of that later. Now he has separated the two sides of the scarf that he cut out there. He's got the tassels on the one part there, and the constant reheating will keep the snowman at a nice temperature. And now it's time for him to look it all over and decide if he needs any final adjustments. Right now, again, heating the putty at the bottom of the piece. What do we do with the broken glass that's colored? Actually, there are people that will recycle and use that, so that's disposed of in an environmentally responsible manner, but we don't reuse it. We let others do that. We have sometimes in the past made pieces with it, but we're not doing that right now. We'll break the putty free, a little drop of water, tap on the iron, and he'll come free. Whoa, and he broke. Okay, he broke. All righty. So, that's all right. We're going to put him in the annealer anyway. And that's part of glass blowing. You notice everybody doesn't get all jacked up about it. Sometimes it happens. But let's take a look here. We can see the bottom of the piece is still stuck onto the putty. And Josh is pointing out the thickness of it right there.
A little thin.
A little bit thin. So the glass breaks at its weakest point, and it breaks from that vibration. So the effort, the goal is to make sure that where the putty attaches to the piece is the weakest joint, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
That's right.
But if not, then we just make another one, but not right now.
No, not right. On to the next one. All right, so yeah, we hope you enjoyed it. It does happen. We don't like when it happens, but it just shows you it's handmade glass. So we'll get set up for the next one while Bruce maybe shows you around the table.
All right, so next he's going to work on a Christmas tree, right? A Christmas tree, okay. And that's going to be a solid sculpture. So that won't be a blown piece, but we'll take a good look at our studio here and what we've got going. Often, I just missed the comment. Somebody asked about how often things break. Probably 10% of the time or less, or 80% when we're on film. No. No, it's never that often. But in the beginning processes, when you first learn to blow glass, it takes a lot of time to get all these heats right. You lose some pieces, but I would say probably less than 10% of the time do they lose a piece like that. Alrighty, so somebody mentioned, yes, it does show how close to the edge we are working. Thanks for that comment. So somebody mentioned about the largeness of the space. Here in the studio, we actually have 4 glory holes operational and 4 working benches. So we'll come down here to the back end of the studio. So we've got a bench over here. We've got the one that Josh was working at. We've got a lower one over there that has the metal side on it. And Foster's bench is right up at the front of the studio. And let's see. Okay, I'm reading some of the comments, seeing if we're getting any questions to answer here. I'll show you what our surroundings look like. We're in kind of a rural area in northern Montgomery County, Maryland. And there's tree farms around. And our studio actually is a converted dairy barn. So we'll get a good view going up there toward the loft and the roof. And the silo over here, which is not operational anymore. And Foster created this studio back in about 1998. He acquired the property and pretty much built the place by hand. And I know that we have quite a few of you from the UK. Foster was actually trained in the UK at the Dudley School of Glass. It had been a apprenticeship program for people going into the industry, but then they opened it up and allowed folks to come in and learn. So this table over here that we've worked off of is called a Marver. And the metal table is used for shaping the glass. You can use it for cooling the glass. And it's also a great storage space. Here's the low bench I was talking about. Some glass blowers like to be more seated. You'll notice that on these other benches that we're using, the glass blowers are almost standing up. Another Marver over here. And there's our bank of annealers over there. So 3 of the 5, the 5th one's hanging on the wall back there. 3 of the 5 are powered solely by propane. And one of them, the large one in the middle, has both gas and electric. And the one in the back is all electric. We've even got a little one up here for small pieces. So Josh is ready to go. He's going to take his first gather of glass from the furnace. Foster, for all our UK viewers, what town, what was Dudley?
Dudley's just 4 or 5 miles up the road from Stourbridge.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Which is where I trained in the, it was actually in Amblecote, small little town. In the West Mids, as it's known in the UK, the West Midlands.
Okay.
Yeah. An hour due west of Birmingham.
Alright, so Josh has got the solid gather of glass. He's blocked it a little bit, stabilized it, and he's going to heat that up. And now he's got some green on it, melt that in, and probably get another gather or 2 out of that. So this will be the green base of the Christmas tree. And then a little while later, we'll use some of that white frit again to put a little snow on it. That's great. Foster, you have a piece of color bar on your Marver or anything? I'm telling the folks about the frit. Now you can see that Josh has got this pretty well covered in the green. He's going to shape that up a little bit. Begin to elongate it. And once again, he's using that newspaper to control the shape of it and just do that by hand. Okay, so I talked to you earlier about how we buy the frit. That's the color glass right there, the green or the white. This is a bar of red glass. And so this is about 1 kilogram right here. We purchase this from a manufacturer, and then we can cut off whatever size chunks we need to make our pieces. It looks almost like what Josh has done over there with the green. It's almost like he's created a bar of color. And in fact, that's pretty much how the workers can do that. They gather out of the tank, the furnace, and then shape it into a cylinder, cut it off, and anneal it. The annealing process takes anywhere from about 6 to 14 hours, depending on the thickness of the glass. Now there was the bar stock we used, and here's little chunks of color. So a piece this size might be just perfect for making the bowl of a goblet. So we can use little pieces like that. Now Josh is going to let that green core cool off some, and then he'll gather over that. Now the trick of gathering right here is he's made it a little bit longer, and that can actually complicate matters for you. So when we're making most vessels, we like to keep them short and compact, but because he's making this tree and needs to work along a longer distance, he let that get really cool so he can gather the glass. He's stripping some off into the furnace now. He might drip a little bit more into the bucket, but you'll start to see that whole cylinder begin to move. You can see how it's wiggling all around right now. So he needs to get that under control, which he does by rolling it on the Marver. Now, a dip into the optic or dip mold. He's not blowing into this because it's solid glass, but this is going to create the branches for his Christmas tree. And there are the ridges from pressing down into it. And we call that an optic or a dip mold because it puts optical impressions in the glass and you just dip right into it. It does not form the piece for the glass blower. There are molds that can be made that give you basically the finished product practically when you take it out of the mold. But this was just to put those ridges in, and what Josh will be doing in a few moments here is using a pair of shears. Actually, he does have some hair left on his left arm. Somebody said, yeah, he's not getting that close to it. What's more interesting is the beard, because if you start putting the pieces away in the annealer and you stay too long, the hot air comes up and singes your beard. What he's doing now is cutting and separating, and you'll notice that he rotates the iron so that he's not cutting adjacent ribs, one right after the other. If he did that, the piece would fall toward the floor constantly, and he'd have more difficulty keeping it centered or under control. So by making a cut on one side, then perhaps the other, he's got an eye constantly on how the tree is falling away toward the floor. So it's pretty much the ultimate multitasking. You got to pay attention to a lot of things, use your peripheral vision to keep things in sight. So he's got the first row of cuts made into it. Now he's going to move a little further out, and you'll see what I meant. See how he flipped it almost 180 degrees around, and then he picks the places where he hasn't cut previously, gets them cut, and then reinforces a few of the cuts. He's also, you can see how he's flicking the shears upward. That's going to give the boughs of the tree a little upward rotation for when we put the snow on it and lengthen this into the final tree size. Got to drive the heat back into it, but not enough so that it starts getting too wobbly. And now you'll see that he makes a quick clip, rotates it quite a ways, and gets those shears in there right away to cut all the other ridges. And he'll probably make 2 or 3 more trips around the diameter of this with the cuts. And not to worry, even if we don't have the piece finished by the end of our allotted time, we'll keep filming, and you can check out the next artist on the craft web or the craft site, and we'll have this film posted. Josh says he'll be done. Actually, he's at least halfway up on this thing right now, and as he goes toward the top, we'll have less space to have to worry about cutting. Here he goes. See how he rotates the pipe. Watch the glass fall. That's really kind of an interesting part of what he's doing. Now that it's starting to cool a little bit, it's more stabilized. And we'll stay over this side, and you'll get a really good view on the next one of how he fights the fact that that glass is always falling away from him. Always toward the floor. All right, another reheating on this one. We'll take a good look at how the glass is falling as Josh keeps manipulating it and cutting. just watch this glass. We want to keep it in line with the pipe, but it has to be hot enough to cut. See how far that's falling right now. By rotating the pipe to where the glass is upward of a line extending from the pipe, he can actually let it fall back in line with the pipe while he cuts. As the glass cools, it falls less and less. There's less heat in it.
One more set.
One more, okay. He's serious about getting it done. All right. He still needs to keep heat throughout the piece, but he's concentrating the heat on the very end. We should see a little bit of a color differential. I'm not sure if you'll see it on the video. There you go. Watch that glass fall away from him. And he'll rotate it so it points upward. And then as it falls, he cuts again. And perhaps you noticed, but when he comes back and does those cuts, quite often he dips his hand in the water bucket behind him because he's in close proximity to that glass and it's very, very hot. Now, since we're talking to a lot of woodworkers, all of our blocks and the wooden tools that we use are made of cherry wood. We use a fruit wood for the nice tight grain. The tools are shaped while the wood is green, and they're kept in water always. And this is to prevent cracking and extend the life of the tool. Right now, Josh is cutting another jack line down close to the iron so that he'll be able to take it off of there eventually. So that's the basics of the tree. Going to put some snow on it before taking it off?
I'm going to stretch it out a little bit.
Stretch it out, okay.
Yeah.
So the tree's going to be taller. And what we can
Kind
do...
of extends those arms, kind of gives it the right shape.
So he's going to make this taller, but also tapered more. And the angle that he's holding that glass at right now contributes to that. By holding it upright like that, the weight toward the base stays pretty much down there, keeps the same diameter, and the stretch is from about halfway up. You'll notice that the end of this is much more narrow now.
And by doing that stretching, it even opens up those lobes.
Yeah, so now you can get a pretty good view of those boughs, those limbs of the tree, and they're well separated.
Just kind of straighten it for a second, and then we'll put some snow on it.
Okay. With probably a couple of minutes to spare. How about that? Okay. And use the jack blades to straighten the glass, to keep it symmetrical, evenly distributed around the center line of the pipe. If it's got a little bit of curvature in the middle, he can support it at the outboard end and let the glass sag or change shape in the middle. So it's attached at 2 points. You can center the glass fairly easily if you keep it supported at 2 points and then let it move. All right, so Foster's got the white glass, which will be the snow, and we're going to sprinkle it on. And a good bit of that will fall right off and also dust right off. But when he gets done, we'll have a nice covering of snow on our green Christmas tree. All right. So now with a little brush, he'll brush some of that back off. Okay. Josh will take another reheat.
If you want to cut off a cookie on the Marver, please.
So he asked for a cookie on the Marver, but it's not a chocolate chip, it's a glass. Foster will gather up some glass out of the furnace, and then he'll bring it over to the Marver, and then they're not toxic, but we don't breathe it in. They're not toxic. Silica is not a good thing to breathe. Foster's going to be gathering up the glass. He'll cut it free on the Marver. Josh will break the piece off of the iron he's collected it on. So all Foster's going to do now is point it downward and cut it off, and it'll be a disc sitting on the Marver. That will form the base for the tree. Josh getting a little final straightening. He'll break it free. Foster will turn it and place it onto the stand. Just letting that cool. It keeps quite a lot of internal temperature for a long time, so we don't want to put it away really hot. And he's also got an eye on that cookie foot. There it goes, it's broken free. Foster turns it over, places the bottom down into the stand, if you will, right on that disc, presses down on it. They'll take a good look at it to make sure that it's standing upright, and then into the annealer it goes. And we'll post some pictures online after it comes out of the annealer. Alrighty. And the annealer it goes, where it'll be held at 900 degrees. That's Fahrenheit.
Of course, that's snowman.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, thank you.
Great
Bucks.
job.
Thank you, folks. Yeah, absolutely.
And Foster. All right. Well, we're awfully glad to have had all of you with us. And I see now that there's about 4 minutes left, but we're going to give that over to the next artist. So thanks for joining us. It's been a real pleasure,
Yeah,
and we hope to see you again.
Check out some of our work at artofire.com. You can email us at artofire@artofire.com.
Okay, great. Have a good evening.
Thank you. All right. Happy holidays.